Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making ham bone soup. Before we get started cooking, I want to take just a moment to ask you to please click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, click the notification bell so you don't miss new content when we upload. Go ahead and share our videos with your friends. Leave us a comment, just say howdy so we know you're out there. It would mean so very much to us as a channel, as a family, and I would really appreciate it. Now you probably have a bag in your freezer that looks just like this. You might even have 2 or 3 of them. So let's make use of them, because in today's economy with the price of groceries, we can't afford to throw stuff away anymore. So if you've got ham bones in your freezer from Christmas, from Easter, from Thanksgiving, whenever, we're going to use them. And we're making a real simple soup out of it today, but I'm going to give you a few other ideas for it. And we're going to add in some more videos for stuff like this. Some more recipes for how to use up those scraps that you normally would just throw out. And this particular ham bone has a really special story that I'm going to share with y'all while I make this video. But what we need for our soup today is a pot with some boiling water in it. I've got about 4 cups of water in here, and I do always use filtered water. And that's so we can throw our ham bone in there and boil the meat off of the bone and get all that meat off and use it. I've got an onion that I've chopped up here. You can add in celery or, some bell peppers. Anything you've got, anything you want to put in, you can put in this pretty much. It's soup. I'm going to use some carrots and some potatoes, some little diced tomatoes. You can certainly use fresh. And I'm going to put in some white kidney beans. You can use any kind of beans. You can leave the beans out. You can use pinto. You can even use dried beans. Just soak them overnight and you can add them right in here when you add your ham bone in. Or you can use nothing but a bag of dried beans and make ham bone soup beans. Soak your beans overnight, throw your beans and your ham bone in the pot, and then tear it off when the beans are done. But we're just doing carrots, the potatoes. We're going to throw some tomatoes in. You don't have to if you don't want to. We're going to put in 1 can of beans and our onion here. But let's get our ham bone started. Our water's not quite boiling yet, but that's okay. If you've got a little extra ham, this is mostly fat, it looks like, and like I said, I'll explain this here in a minute, but this ham bone has a lot of meat left on it. Look at that, there's a lot of meat on there. And we're boiling this because we want to get the flavor out of the bone. And there's a little more meat in here. It's mostly fat, but that's okay. We'll boil it to get the flavor, and that's not. And then when it boils for a little while, we'll dice all that up and add it back into our soup. Now, I'm also going to go ahead and add my onion in. And we're going to let this simmer for, about an hour. You can let it simmer much longer. You can make this in a crock pot if you want to. In a crock pot, it's going to take about 6 hours, and you can just throw everything in all at once, your carrots, your potatoes, whatever, throw it all in there at once. I said if you're doing celery or bell peppers, I'd go ahead and throw them in with this, and you can saute all that stuff first, but I'm getting ready to head back to Mountain City today, and I wanted to make this for y'all before I left, so I'm making this like before breakfast, so that I could share this with you this week while I'm working on our mission project up there. Anyway, this particular ham bone, while that's cooking there, I'll just put the lid on it and let it simmer. I'm going to share the story of this ham bone with you while I prep the vegetables. So I have not cooked at all for the volunteers up there. And several of them have asked me if I was going to be cooking while I was up there. And I don't think that preacher up there that's in charge of this is watching my videos, because he has turned me into a construction manager. And I have not had time really to cook. The most I have done was last Wednesday when they were doing the community dinner. I help get a couple pans out of the oven and help make a salad. But that's not exactly cooking for everybody. Anyway, the group that was up this past week, some ladies and gentlemen from Ohio, they all came together, and they came from 2 different churches, I believe, but they got together and came down together, and the ladies that came with them cooked for their group. Now, a lot of times the church will cook all week long for the volunteers, but sometimes we have volunteers come down that have a cook with them, and they cook. And these ladies made a ham, and they were trying to decide what to do with the ham bone, because some of us folks who are a little bit older or who grew up without, we don't throw anything away. And they cleaned the ham off the bone and put the slices in the refrigerator, to make sandwiches the next day, because there was some leftover ham. And they were like, "Hey, Becky, do you want this ham bone? You can take it home and you can make ham bone soup for a video." So they stuck it in the freezer for me, and that's where this ham bone came from. Some of the volunteers that had come down to work in Mountain City thought that you all would enjoy some ham bone soup. And one of their husbands who was there, apparently he cleans out the freezer. I had no idea how you get the freezer cleaned out. That might be why mine always needs cleaned out. He cleans the freezer out for his wife occasionally, and he said that they have 3 ham bones in their freezer right now, and they had made 2 hams for a holiday. I don't remember which one it was, because they had a lot of people over, and he found several more ham bones in the freezer when he was putting those 2 in. So he took a couple of them out and threw them away. And I think I have a couple in my freezer right now too. That's why I said we need to use those for y'all and get you some recipes, because you probably have a couple ham bones in your freezer. And that's what the ladies said. They said, everybody's got a couple ham bones in their freezer, and folks need to know how to use those nowadays. Okay, our ham bone has only been simmering for about 45 minutes. And I'm about to do something that I'm going to tell you not to do. Now, if you're in a hurry, you can, because like I said when I started this, I'm kind of in a hurry. I'm going to add my vegetables while my ham bone's still in there. Normally, I'd simmer the ham bone a lot longer. The longer you simmer your ham bone, the more flavor you're going to have in your soup. And if you normally cook with boneless meat, or you're just learning to cook, the flavor that is in bone-in meat, if you've ever had a really good T-bone steak, you know it's different than a strip or a filet, because it has that bone in and you get that flavor. It's the same way with any kind of meat, but stew meat especially, and that's kind of what this is. This is a stew meat. When you cook the bone, you get the flavor out of the bone. And that's kind of the thing we're doing here with ham bone soup. We're making a stock from that bone and all the flavor that's in it. Now, flavor talking here, you can add ham base to this. Better Than Bouillon makes a really good ham base. You can use chicken stock in it, if you want a different flavor or more flavor. You can add bouillon cubes or, chicken bouillon cubes or whatever. I'm not adding any bouillon cubes to this because it had a lot of fat left on that bone, and fat also has a lot of flavor. And I'm going to cook it long enough to get the flavor out. But it's been cooking about 45 minutes. I've got my vegetables cut up and washed. Make sure you wash them. And if you're doing carrots and potatoes, you want to do your potatoes a little bit bigger than your carrot, because the taters cook a whole lot faster than the carrots do. And you don't even have to cut them up if you don't want to. Especially if you're using like little new potatoes, you can leave them whole, but I like to cut them because I like that to get that flavor into the flesh of the potato. You can peel them if you want to, especially if you're using russets or something. You might want to peel them because sometimes those skins are a little bit tougher and they don't go so well in soup. But whether you peel them or not, or what variety you use, you can use any variety. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the rest of my stuff to this and continue to simmer it. And then when my vegetables get done, I'm going to pull my ham bone out, take the ham off, and throw it back in, which is a little bit faster. So if you're in a hurry and you got a ham bone and you want soup, you can do this in about an hour, 20 minutes or so. But really, a good pot of ham bone soup, I'd simmer it a couple hours all total, at least 2. I'm going to add in my tomatoes. Now, these are just petite diced tomatoes. If you've got fresh tomatoes, chop them up and throw them in here. Peel them or not peel them. Most people say peel them, but I've cooked with tomatoes with the peel. If you don't like tomatoes, don't put the tomatoes in it. I mean, it's your pot of soup. Put what you want to in it. And soup recipes should be more of a guide, a suggestion. I'm also not draining my beans. I know most people do, but I am not. You can add any seasoning in here if you want. Some Italian seasoning would be good. You can throw bay leaves in here. And like I said, the bell peppers and the celery and stuff like that. Go ahead and dump the rest of your vegetables in there. And if you wanted to do the dried beans, soak them overnight and put them in when you start the ham bone and just completely cook them together. If you wanted to use this in a casserole, just cook your ham bone until till the rest of the meat falls off, and then use that as a casserole base. This makes really good ham and potato soup, and we did just ham and potato soup, and I'll link that video in here. I used diced ham in my ham and potato soup, but you can certainly use the ham bone in ham and potato soup. So I'll link that video in here. It's a really, really good recipe. Oh, I do want to add a little pepper. Now, salt, we may have to add some, but ham like this, bone-in ham, usually has quite a bit of salt in it. Now, with all the potatoes and the carrots, I'm guessing we're probably going to want a little bit more, but wait until you taste it cooked, because it's hard to get that salt out once you put it in. I am going to do just some plain black pepper, and you could add in red pepper flakes or something if you wanted to spice it up a little bit. Some red pepper flakes would be good. But like I said, soup recipes should be a suggestion, not really a, like something you have to follow to the letter. This is one of them things where Granny said you get out a pot and you put some stuff in it and you cook it till it's done and then you got dinner. That's kind of the thing, and that's how she taught me to cook. If you get a pot and something to put in it, you can have dinner. Anyway, put the lid back on, and we're going to let that simmer until our vegetables start to get tender. And when the vegetables just start to get tender, I'm going to pull the ham bone out and clean the ham off of it. And throw away the bone, and then we'll have some soup. By the time I get the bone cleaned off, the vegetables will be done. Okay, our vegetables have been in the pot for maybe 15 minutes or so. Our ham bone's been in there for at least an hour now. And our vegetables are starting to get tender. I did not even stir this. I just checked them real quick. But just check your vegetables with a fork. And if the fork will go in your vegetables, they're tender. Make sure you check a tater and a carrot, because like I said, they cook at different rates. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ham bone out and get what ham I can get off and throw it back in my soup. And at that point, we'll be ready to eat dinner. There's so many varieties of this, and this recipe really should be just a guide. That's all it should be. You can use whatever you have in it. Any kind of vegetable, just beans, just potatoes, and I'm going to link that ham potato soup video in here because that is a really good recipe. But this is the kind of recipe that got our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents through some really lean times, when sometimes you just need one more meal in the week because you don't have enough. You just don't have enough. And this will give you an extra meal from basically nothing. From the scraps from your dinner, you can make a meal. And if you have leftover beans, throw them in here instead of using a can or even using dried. A few leftover beans would work really well in here. It's meant to use up what you have. It is a struggle food, a tough times meal, depression era type recipe that got us through, and it'll continue to get us through. So you need a few of these old recipes in your recipe box, and like I said, it's a guide. It's not something that you have to make exactly the way I did it. And I also adjusted my water. When I added my vegetables, I added another, I don't know, cup and a half or so of water just to get the vegetables mostly underwater. You do not have to do that. You can have far less broth in here and, you know, it just be chunkier. It's up to you how you want to adjust it. And if you want this thicker, like you want it more like a stew so that the broth is really, really thick, take about half a cup of cold water and add you a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch to that. Stir it up and dissolve it, make you a cornstarch slurry, and then add that in here slowly while you stir it, and it'll turn this into gravy. And we've done that several times in different videos, and I'm about to burn my hands here. I do want to show you this. As you cook your ham bone, you will see that the center of that bone starts to disappear. That's what gives your soup the flavor, is the marrow that's in the center of this bone. And I should have cooked mine a whole lot longer. Like I said, this is a do what I say, not what I do. But you can see after simmering it, that meat that you really can't get off when you just bake it kind of falls off. I mean, it comes off really, really easy. And the ham bone falls apart. So we did cook it. We didn't cook it as long as we could, but we probably cooked it long enough to get most of the flavor. I might throw that back in there while I'm cleaning the other bone off, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. I want to thank you ladies for this ham bone, and I hope you all who are watching enjoy this recipe and pull your ham bones out of the freezer and make dinner out of them, rather than just letting them go to waste, because we are in one of them times where we really can't let stuff go to waste anymore. I have thoroughly enjoyed working up in Mountain City. I have enjoyed helping rebuild after Helene. I have enjoyed all of the people that I have met and working with them. Matthew 5:16 says, "Let your light so shine before men that they see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." And working up there with all the volunteers on the rebuild, I have worked with a lot of people who are letting their light shine so that men can see their good works and they are glorifying God. They are saying that, you know, God sent us here to help. And that's what they tell the people when they go help them. And certainly you can see that they are there because God sent them in their works, in their attitudes, in their actions. And it has truly blessed me to be around people like that, work alongside people like that. And if you're looking for something to do this summer, maybe you can't afford a vacation, but you want to do something kind of meaningful with a few days off, consider volunteering and helping, because spending that time with folks who are doing that, who are using their lives to help others, it gives you a different attitude. It is very uplifting and encouraging. And you'll just meet some really great people, like the ladies who gave me this ham bone to share with y'all. So I'll put contact information for how you can come volunteer if you would like to, and in the description of this. I have been working with First Christian Church up in Mountain City, and you can Google them if you'd like to, and they can tell you how to come and volunteer. But it doesn't cost anything, and there is always food, so you're not going to starve. So if you're willing to work and you want to come and help, come and help. Anyway, I am truly blessed to be able to do that, and truly blessed by the people that I have been working with. Look at all this meat that is on this. I mean, I'm not even close to the end of what's edible here, and there is just a lot of meat, and this is just off of the bone. And by putting the ham bone back in there, I've minimized the damage I'm doing by rushing this too. I'm going to throw the other one back in there. You do want to kind of clean the gristle out. And some people really, really like the fat. I am not a fan, but if you have folks in your house that really, really like that, like this here is completely fat. There's a little bit of meat in it. It's easy to separate the meat from the fat at this point too, because it's been cooking. But if you have folks that like this, you can leave this in there and let them have that. I'm not a fan, but there are people I know who really like that. And my grandpa would have ate that. And fat does fill you up. It has a lot of nutrients in it. I promise you, if you ate that, you wouldn't be hungry for a day or two. This is going to make a really, really hearty soup. You can serve it with some dinner rolls. We have up regular dinner rolls, and I'll link that. Maybe a loaf of peasant bread, would be good with this. I'm going to throw that one back in there and let it keep cooking while I'm doing this too. Definitely some fresh baked peasant bread would be good with this. Pan of cornbread would be good with it. And I'll link some of these videos in so you can find this bread. Or some mayonnaise rolls. If you're in a hurry like I am this morning, you can make some mayonnaise rolls. Just a real quick dinner roll. You can even serve it with crackers. And this is mostly another bone here. Yep. But even it's letting go with the meat. Yep, that's bone. If you have a whole lot of fat in your pot, you can skim the fat off at this point if you don't want all the grease in it. But I don't have very much, so I'm not going to skim this. I don't want to take all of the flavor out of it. So I'm going to leave what fat I've got in there. I didn't have a whole lot of fatty meat that I added to it. There was some in the scrap stuff, but I had figured I had enough on the ham bone that I did not need to add that to the soup too. Don't want to give anybody a heart attack. All right. I got our ham bone all cleaned off and I cleaned everything up. I've even got all the fat out of this. And that is what was left. That's what we normally throw away when we cook a bone-in ham. A spiral ham or a whole bone-in ham that's not sliced. And that is definitely enough meat for a meal. So get those ham bones out of the freezer. If you don't have a ham bone in the freezer, the next time there's a holiday, for heaven's sakes, don't throw it away. Put it in the freezer. And save it for some soup when your garden vegetables start coming in. Or do some ham bone soup beans or something out of it on a cold winter day. But look at that. I mean, that is a lot of meat. And like I said, that's normally all thrown away after we have a ham dinner. Add that back in and we're going to stir it up. And then we're going to see what this ham soup looks like. Go ahead and get out the big soup bowls, because this is dinner. This is not the appetizer. All the vegetables are good and tender, and that broth is so rich. And I didn't add anything into it. I mean, no bouillon or broth or anything like that. It's just from the ham bone. Oh my goodness, look at that. Need a ladle. I always forget to get something. But it's got a lot of color from the potatoes and the carrots. There's a big chunk of ham. This has a lot of meat in it, and that's, you know, what we normally discard. And not discarding that stuff is how our grandmothers got through some really, really tough times. That's a really pretty bowl of soup. It's a really hearty bowl of soup, and it's a really tasty bowl of soup. I hope you give this a try. Thank you so very much for joining us again in the Hillbilly Kitchen. Thank you, ladies, for the ham bone, and thank you for the fellowship that we shared together while we were working. Thank you for sharing some fellowship with us today while we made this ham bone soup. If you have not already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. Share our videos with all your friends. And until next time, remember to put God first.